In the summer, so many people make the drive up north for a long weekend, but whether your vacation is an in-state road trip or a lavish getaway to an exotic island, there's something you should be checking for that statistically you're probably not checking for. Entomologist Dr. Jim Fredericks joins us as we observe Bedbug Awareness Week. Dr. Fredericks, welcome to the program.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Matt.
So you sent over a fact sheet, and it is pretty alarming how many people do not check for bed bugs or don't know what they're looking for. Can you tell me about that?
Well, that's just the thing. And when you described it, whether you're staying in a four-star hotel or you're staying, at your aunt or uncle's, bungalow to get away, bed bugs don't discriminate. And it turns out, on a recent survey that we did, more than two-thirds of Americans aren't looking for bed bugs when they're staying places, and that same number don't even know what to look for. And so we think it's really important that folks understand what to look for and just to be aware of the potential for bringing bed bugs home.
So when you say two-thirds don't look for them, do you equate that to there is a lack of awareness, or is there any anecdotal evidence that you've seen and heard to suggest why people might not be looking?
I think it's because of a lack of awareness. I'm not aware of any kind of reason why people wouldn't want to look, because bringing bed bugs home is a real risk, and it can be a nightmare. I mean, bed bugs are tiny insects that feed on human blood while you sleep. Nobody wants that.
And so, you talk about just feeding on your blood. You don't want that, but what are some of the risks that go along with bed bug infestation?
Well, bed bugs are not known to transmit any diseases. So unlike ticks or mosquitoes, some of these other blood-feeding pests, bed bugs are not known to transmit disease. But their bites can result in itchy welts, can result in allergic reactions, and so it's generally a bad situation when you do bring those bed bugs home. And the reason that bed bugs are, I talk about bringing them home, is that bed bugs are great hitchhikers. It turns out that they come out to eat while you sleep. Their bites are painless when they happen. And then those bed bugs immediately go and hide. They hide in cracks or crevices. It might be in the bed, but it might be in your suitcase. And that's when you could potentially bring them back to your home.
So they are hiding, and with that in mind, what do you look for and where do you look for them?
Yeah, there's some pretty simple things that you can do when you're traveling. So when you first arrive into the bedroom where you'll be staying, whether it's a hotel or it's with a family member or maybe it's a rental home, check the bed. The primary place that bed bugs are going to be found are places where people sleep or spend lots of time just being still. So typically we think of bed bugs around the bed, but if you're sleeping on the couch, that could be a place where bed bugs are. The inspection itself, look for small dark spots. These are actually, and this is gross, they're the fecal spots. It's some of that undigested blood that passes through the bed bug and around their hiding places. So seams in a mattress, maybe buttons or folds, cracks or crevices in the bed frame or nightstands. You'll see these small dark specks in places where bed bugs are found. You might also see their exoskeletons. So just like all insects, bed bugs have a hard exoskeleton, and as they grow, they shed their skins. And so you may see these kind of translucent shells that are left behind. You might see eggs. They're tiny though, smaller than a grain of rice, or you might see the bugs themselves. One thing that people are often kind of super hyper aware about are bites. And bites alone are not a great way to tell if you have bed bugs. However, it's going to be, maybe a warning sign. But some people don't react to the bites at all. And so bed bugs could be present, there's no reaction on the skin, and those bed bugs just continue to feed.
And so there are a lot of things to look for. Now, what if you do find bed bugs? What would your advice be to people who are out on vacation and they find bed bugs in their bed or somewhere else?
Yeah. And first, don't panic, right? Bed bugs are not going to chase you down the hall. Bed bugs don't fly, they don't jump. They're not aggressive in terms of chasing you to get that blood meal. They're going to be much more interested in you while you're sleeping than any other time. So, no need to panic. But if you're staying in a hotel, you want to alert the management right away. You want to alert any property rental managers right away if you're in um, a rental property. In a hotel, ask to be moved to a different room. It doesn't mean you need to leave the establishment, but ask to be moved to a different room. And you want that room to be a room that's away from that infested room. You don't want to be right next door or above and below that room because bed bugs do move from room to room, and often infestations are clustered around adjacent rooms. So talk to whoever you're renting from, whether it's hotel or a rental manager, and ask to be moved or ask to be put into a different location.
Now, what about if it's already too late, the bed bugs have gotten into your luggage and somehow they make it back to your house? So what does it look like? What does the process look like to get rid of those?
Sure. Well, um, if you suspect that you have bed bugs in your home, it's best to call a pro. Bed bug control is not a do-it-yourself project. They can become entrenched. They can reproduce very quickly. Female bed bugs lay eggs very quickly, and those eggs grow into those nymphs grow into adults very quickly. Each time they shed their skin or grow to the next stage in development, they need a blood meal. It's best to contact a pro if you think you have a problem. But before you get to that stage, just imagine that you realize in the morning that bed bugs were present in the room. So now you're thinking, I don't want to bring these things home in my luggage. You're not sure. When you come home, unpack your suitcase directly into the washing machine. Right? Wash your clothes and then, really importantly, dry the clothes on high heat. The high heat setting on a dryer will kill all stages of bed bugs and their eggs that might be in the clothes or in your suitcase. You still have that suitcase. Some people choose to use a portable steamer, a clothing steamer, to steam the inside of the suitcase or even vacuum it out to try to find any bed bugs that might be hidden. But I think an important thing is that you don't store that suitcase in your bedroom. Store it, in the garage or in the shed or maybe in the basement, far away from where people sleep. So if there are any eggs or any bed bugs that have stowed away, they're not in close proximity to the blood meal, which would be you while you're sleeping.
All great tips. Thank you for bringing your expertise into our studio to keep our viewers safe. Before I let you get back to your evening, are there any points that you feel like we left out or anything you would like to underscore that our viewers might take away from this?
Well, one thing that I think is just really important, oftentimes pest professionals will visit a site only after do-it-yourself efforts have failed. It's best to control bed bugs early on in an infestation before it becomes entrenched. So at the first signs, it's best to call a pro.
Dr. Jim Fredericks, thank you for joining us on Evening Plus.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.